Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we are, well, we're strapping in for something that might feel a little bit like a roller coaster.
Yeah, the kind where the floor completely drops out from under you.
Exactly. We are continuing our journey through the AI Futures series. This is that massive, serialized analysis authored by Jafar Humayun.
It is good to be back into this material. And you're right, the floor dropping is definitely the focus today. But before we, jump into the deep end, I think it's important to remind everyone of the tagline Humayun uses for this entire project.
Right, the framing.
Yeah, AI Futures is not a forecast, it's a framework.
Which is a distinction I really appreciate, especially with a topic this heavy. We aren't sitting here trying to guess, if the next phone update will fold your laundry or which robot is going to take our coffee orders.
No, not at all.
It's about the underlying physics of the economy. We're looking at the machinery under the hood of the business world.
Right. It's a systemic analysis. We aren't looking at gadgets. We are looking at incentives.
Right.
And if you remember our last deep dive, that was episode 9 of his series, we talked about the token-based corporation.
Yeah, that was a really dense one. We spent a lot of time unpacking this concept of structural compression.
Which is foundational for today.
Totally. For anyone who maybe missed that one or just needs a refresher, this was the idea that you can take a massive, say, a 1,000-person department and just collapse it down into a tiny, lean team of orchestrators.
And those orchestrators aren't managing people anymore.
Right. They're managing a budget of AI tokens.
Exactly. It fundamentally changed the definition of the enterprise. It moved us from managing headcount to managing compute.
Which brings us to today. We are tackling episode 10 of Humayun's series.
The social contract revelation.
Yeah, the social contract revelation. I mean, it sounds dramatic, almost like a thriller novel or something.
It does have that ring to it.
But reading through the source material, it felt, I don't know, incredibly grounded and honestly, a little unsettling. It feels like we're peeling back a layer of the world that maybe we didn't really want to look at.
Well, it's unsettling because it challenges a core belief that I think we all hold, whether we realize it or not.
A loyalty thing.
Right. We have this deep-seated feeling that when companies replace people with AI, it feels personal.
Like a betrayal.
Yes. It feels like a violation of an agreement.
It's that whole narrative of, I gave you my best years, I stayed late, I missed my kids' soccer games,
Yeah.
and you just swapped me out for a piece of software.
Yeah.
It feels like a moral failing on the company's part.
Like they broke a promise.
Exactly.
But the mission of this deep dive and Humayun's specific goal in this chapter is to take a really reflective, systemic look at why that is actually happening.
Without the emotional baggage.
Right. The thesis here is tough to swallow, but it's essential if you want to understand the framework. The social contract, that exchange of loyalty for security, it was never a moral mandate.
It was a function of necessity.
Exactly. Economic necessity. And that necessity is evaporating.
Okay, hold on. Let's unpack that right away. Because that sounds like we're saying corporations were never actually nice. They were just stuck with us.
I know it sounds a bit bleak.
It feels very cynical.
It might feel cynical, but Humayun argues it's actually just mechanistic. It's just how the system works. To understand it, we need to start with what he calls the irreplaceability fallacy.
The irreplaceability fallacy. Okay, walk me through the old reality here. Because I think, we tend to romanticize the pre-AI workplace a little bit.
Oh, absolutely.
We think of it as this community of collaboration where human idiosyncrasies were celebrated and we all worked together.
We do, but structurally. In that old reality, human labor was the only engine of production.
Right. There was no alternative.
None. If you wanted a car built, or a legal brief written, or a customer service call answered, you needed a human brain and human hands. There was literally no other option to process information or perform tasks.
You couldn't ask a steam engine to write a marketing strategy.
Exactly. You needed us. And humans are what? Let's be honest.
We're high maintenance.
Extremely. From a pure engineering standpoint, humans are terribly inefficient.
We need sleep.
We need sleep, we have off days, we have really complex emotional needs, we navigate office politics, we need breaks, vacations, motivation.
Health insurance.
Health insurance, right. We get sick, we burn out.
So basically, companies tolerated all that, what the text calls friction.
Yes. They tolerated it because they had to. The inefficiency of human labor, the downtime, the friction, that was just the cost of doing business.
It wasn't that the corporation cared about your bad day.
No, it was that the corporation couldn't function without you, even with your bad day. You held the monopoly on cognition.
Wow. That's a really powerful way to put it. We held the monopoly on thinking,
Right.
but now that monopoly is broken. That's the new reality.
Enter the AI token. We are talking about agents that execute work with zero downtime, no hesitation, no emotional needs.
No friction.
No friction whatsoever.
And this is where the friction we feel comes in. It feels, people call it cruel. When a company swaps a team of people for a script, we call it heartless. We see these headlines about layoffs alongside record profits, and we naturally get angry.
We want to find a villain.
We do. We want someone to blame.
And Humayun corrects that terminology immediately in the text. He argues that, strictly speaking, it isn't cruelty, it's competitive viability.
Competitive viability. So you're saying it's not about being mean, it's just about staying alive.
Think about the survival imperative of a market. If a company can achieve 10 times the speed at a fraction of the cost by using AI, the market effectively mandates that transition.
Because if they don't do it, someone else will. It's like the ultimate prisoner's dilemma.
Exactly. It's not a choice made out of malice. It's a choice made to avoid obsolescence. If your competitor is producing value at 10% of your cost and 1,000% of your speed,
You can't compete.
you don't get to be noble and keep your manual workforce. You just go out of business.
Which brings up a key concept from the text that I highlighted. The idea that human labor is fundamentally transitioning. It used to be the backbone of the company, right? The core asset.
The thing that defined the firm's actual capacity.
Yeah. And now it's becoming a variable input.
Like electricity or bandwidth.
That is a wild way to think about people. A variable input. It implies you just turn the dial up or down based on what you need that specific minute.
I know it sounds jarring in a literal sense, but structurally, that is exactly what the shift represents. When cognitive labor becomes something you can just spin up on a server via an API...
It stops being the identity of the firm.
Right. It becomes a utility you pay for by the usage. You don't keep electricity on the payroll just in case.
You pay for what you burn.
Exactly.
This leads us right into the next section of the source material, which Humayun calls the logic of the organism. And I think this is really helpful because it forces us to stop looking for villains and start looking at the mechanics.
It's crucial. We constantly anthropomorphize companies. We act like they are people with a conscience. We say, Google decided this or Ford felt that.
Right, giving them human traits.
But Humayun pushes us to view the corporation as an economic organism.
And like any organism, it has a biological directive.
A single directive shareholder value. That is the DNA. That is its survival instinct. It feeds on margin and it grows through efficiency.
The source material lays out this competitive loop. It's a race between two hypothetical companies. Let's actually walk through that because I think it makes the survival point crystal clear. It shows why staying human isn't really an option, even if the CEO desperately wants it to be.
Okay, let's look at Company A and Company B. They are in the exact same market, selling the same widget or service.
Okay.
Company A looks at these new AI tools and decides to engage in rational optimization. They automate aggressively. They replace 60% of their staff with AI agents. They slash costs. Their margins double.
Okay, so Company A is the ruthless efficiency machine. They are lean, they're automated, their operating costs just plummet. Now look at Company B.
Company B decides to prioritize traditional culture. They say, we value our people. We aren't going to automate just for profit. We're a family.
They keep the headcount.
They keep their traditional workflows.
And in a movie, Company B would totally win. They're the plucky underdogs who care about each other.
Right, the feel-good story. But in the actual physics of the economy, Company B is in trouble immediately.
Because of the costs.
Their capital costs are significantly higher than Company A's. Their speed of execution is slower. And investors who are also effectively algorithmic in their behavior, they look at Company B and see a company that is burning cash inefficiently.
So the stock price drops.
The stock tanks. Access to capital dries up. They can't get loans at good rates because they're seen as high risk due to that inefficiency. So Company B either fails or, more likely, it gets acquired by Company A.
Which then promptly guts it and installs the automation anyway.
Exactly. That is the reality of the mechanics here. In this new environment, kindness, if we define kindness as preserving legacy structures and headcount, it can actually lead to institutional failure.
So the system literally selects for efficiency, not empathy. It actively weeds out the nice companies.
That is the hard truth of the economic organism. It isn't personal. It's evolutionary pressure applied directly to a balance sheet. The market is a selection engine, and right now, it is selecting for tokenized labor.
Let's put some real numbers on this. Because
Yeah.
the source material gives us a case study that, well, it's jaw-dropping. We're talking about the math of displacement. This isn't just hypothetical theory. This is the math that boards are looking at right this second.
Right. This is a composite example Humayun uses of a big tech software organization, but it perfectly reflects the reality that many Fortune 500 boards are debating in closed sessions today.
Okay, so looking at the traditional model first,
Mm-hmm.
you have an engineering organization, 1,500 employees. And it's not just their salaries we're talking about.
No, it's every.
It's the offices, the HR departments, payroll, benefits, the middle management layers,
The ping pong tables, the catered lunches.
the whole 9 yards.
The overhead load is massive, and the cost for that organization, fully loaded, is roughly $250 million annually.
Okay, $250 million. Now compare that to the AI-centric model.
In the AI-centric model, you strip that entire structure down to 25 AI-native staff.
25 people from 1,500.
Right. These are the orchestrators we talked about in the last deep dive. They aren't coding line by line. They are managing the AI agents that code. They are prompting, reviewing, and deploying.
And the cost for that model?
$30 million annually. And just to be clear, that includes the massive token budget to pay for the AI compute.
Wow. So $250 million down to $30 million. That is a savings of $220 million per product team.
And this is the kicker, with execution speeds that are 10 times faster.
Because the AI doesn't sleep.
It doesn't sleep. It doesn't need cross-functional meetings to align on strategy. It doesn't get writer's block.
It doesn't commute.
Exactly.
When you see it in black and white, like that $220 million in pure margin expansion, that is impossible to ignore.
You realize immediately why the shift is happening. Humayun makes a very specific point here. Nobody in the boardroom is twirling a villain's mustache.
Right.
They aren't sitting there plotting how to make people suffer.
They're just looking at a spreadsheet.
Yeah.
And option A costs $250 million and moves slow. Option B costs $30 million and moves fast.
Exactly. They are just executing the obvious play. To not make this switch is effectively suicide in the market. If you are a CEO and you present the $250 million plan when the $30 million option exists, you get fired for fiduciary negligence.
Your board literally has to fire you.
They must.
It really reframes the whole narrative. I mean, we grew up with these corporate slogans. We're a team. We kill. Grow with us.
We are a
Oh, man. How many times have you heard, we are a family in an all-hands meeting?
Too many. And this brings us to the section of the analysis titled From Relationship to Transaction. Because Humayun argues we have to deconstruct those narratives.
It kind of feels like it was all a lie now, doesn't it? If they can just drop us for a script, was it ever a family? Or is that just, I don't know, corporate gaslighting?
Well, the nuance here is that it wasn't a lie then. Those slogans were stories that worked specifically because human labor was non-replaceable.
Right.
The social contract, work hard and get security, was a byproduct of an era where humans were the exclusive source of cognition.
So because they needed us, they had to treat us well.
They had to treat you well enough to keep you. Loyalty was just a retention strategy for a scarce resource. The illusion was that corporations were built to protect people, that the office was this sort of cathedral of human cooperation where we all come together to achieve greatness.
But the source says the office was never a cathedral. It was a cost center.
Precisely. And now that there is an alternative, an AI that doesn't ask for a pension, doesn't strike, doesn't form a union, and never asks for a raise.
The relationship is revealed.
Yes. It's revealed for what it always was, purely transactional.
Labor didn't just become obsolete in this view. In the eyes of the P&L sheet, labor became a burden.
It went from being the asset you absolutely couldn't do without to the liability you need to minimize. The asset is now the token, not the person.
That's heavy.
Yeah.
For anyone listening who is currently employed, that hits hard. It makes you feel very small. It makes you realize that your job security wasn't really about you being uniquely good. It was about there being no alternative to you.
It does. It's a profound decoupling. And Humayun addresses this emotional impact in the section on the systemic reset. He talks about the need to refine our emotion.
Right. He says we need to move from feeling betrayal to recognizing a structural shift.
Because betrayal implies a broken promise between two moral agents, like a friend betraying a friend. But if we accept that the corporation is just an efficiency machine, there was no moral promise to begin with. There is just a market alignment that has now drifted apart.
So this efficiency war the questions in the boardroom have changed completely.
Yes. The question is no longer, is this ethical or is this good for the community? The question is, how do we remain relevant in a token speed economy?
It's interesting how he frames the players in this, too. He really emphasizes no heroes, no villains.
It's important to internalize that. Even the nice boss, the manager you actually like, the CEO who sends out the thoughtful holiday emails, they are doing what they have to do to survive. It is not a moral failure on their part.
It's a systemic reset.
Exactly. They are caught in the exact same physics as the workers. They are just pulling the levers they were forced to pull by the market logic.
The phrase that really stuck with me from this section was about operational DNA.
Yes. Humayun writes that AI hasn't corrupted companies. It has revealed them. It has exposed the operational DNA that was always there. The DNA that says, maximize return, minimize cost.
AI just gave that DNA a new set of tools.
Exactly. The DNA didn't change. The environment did.
And he frames the outcome of this new physics really starkly. He says we are entering a world where value creation is being completely rewritten by the physics of margin expansion.
Right. This is a subtle but absolutely crucial economic concept. Value isn't hired anymore.
You don't hire value.
Right. You don't hire value by bringing in a person, training them, and hoping they do good work over the next year. Value is deployed. You point an AI agent at a task, and it executes immediately.
And profit isn't shared. It's extracted at scale.
That is the fundamental divergence.
Yep.
When you hired people, you shared profit in the form of wages. Wages are basically a mechanism for distributing corporate revenue back to the population.
Yeah.
But when you deploy software, you extract profit because the marginal cost of that software is near zero. You keep the difference.
So this brings us back to the start. The social contract feels broken to us because the conditions that created it, human necessity, are just gone.
Correct. The contract wasn't torn up by some villain in a smoke-filled room. It evaporated because the ink faded. The underlying reality that supported it, that humans were the only game in town, is no longer true.
It's a really sobering realization. But I think that's the whole point of this series. It's not here to comfort us. It's here to show us the machinery so we don't get caught in the gears.
Knowledge is better than illusion, even if the knowledge is cold. If you understand the physics, you can stop taking it personally. You can stop waiting for the company to do the right thing and start realizing they will simply do the efficient thing.
So where does this leave us? The source material ends with a really provocative thought for the listener. It doesn't offer a policy solution or a way to, save the jobs. It just poses a question.
It does. It asks the listener, or really the market participant, to look at math again. When one model outperforms 1,000 employees for the cost of 10, the only question left for the market is,
why haven't you made the switch yet?
And that is the pressure every single company is feeling right now. Every quarterly earnings call, every board meeting, that question is just hanging in the air.
It is a terrifying question, but it explains so much of the friction we are seeing in the job market right now. It explains the restructuring, the pivot to AI. It's not personal. It's just the answer to that question. It's the market answering, we are making the switch now.
And looking ahead, this leads perfectly into the next installment of the framework. Humayun teases episode 11 at the end of this text. And if you think today was intense, just wait.
Episode 11, Push-Pull Dynamics of AI Adoption.
The focus there is going to be fascinating. The subtitle is The Inevitable Draw of AI. Not just because it works, but because humans don't.
Ouch. Because humans don't. That sounds like we're going to get into the absolute messiness of management.
We are. We're going to explore the friction of human management versus the seamless nature of automated agents. If today was about the social contract evaporating, next time is about why managing humans is becoming a liability compared to managing code.
So compliance, HR risks.
Legal liability, all of the things that make humans risky assets on a balance sheet.
I have a feeling that one's going to be just as eye-opening as this one.
Probably. But again, it's not a forecast. It's a framework. We are just looking at the incentives.
Well, on that note, we are going to wrap up this deep dive. It's a lot to process. The idea that our jobs were never really ours, but just a temporary solution to a technical problem that is going to stick with me.
It changes how you see the world. It's like seeing the code behind the matrix for the first time.
It certainly does. Thank you for walking us through the logic today. Even if the logic is a bit cold, it helps to understand the storm, even if you can't stop the rain.
Always a pleasure to connect the dots.
And to everyone listening, thanks for being part of the deep dive.
Mm-hmm.
Take some time to mull over that math. We'll be back with episode 11 soon. Until then.
Stay tuned, stay curious, stay systemic.
See you next time.